When the USSR was established, it started imposing and wanted to create the proletariat. In other words, it imposed a certain kind of behavior on us Armenians, Azerbaijanis, and peoples of Central Asia. And 1 or 2 generations, more or less, were artificially in that process. However, when the external pressure is no longer powerful, every person goes back to being the way he or she was and behaving how his or her ancestors would behave. Now they say Nazarbayev escaped with the big harem because he had a harem with him. It's because these people have been living like this for centuries, if not millennia. But the Soviets came and said they can't live like that, meaning they can only have one wife. Now these people, that is, the Azerbaijanis, have been stealing cattle their whole lives. You can read it in the books about how they would steal cattle from us Armenians and others in the 19th century. After all, they are from the Ak-Koyunlu and Kara-Koyunlu tribes. In other words, they are the white sheep and black sheep tribes. Sheep are their object of worship, and the ram is their symbol. They are a people who worship sheep. For the Azerbaijanis, sheep breeding is, what can I say, their occupation. It's like their Apple handheld device, or their Microsoft company. Well, there were sheep, and it's obvious that they were going to steal them. What else were they going to do, or what else could they do? This is the question. We are dealing with another issue here, and that is the following. The people who were talking about the era of peace need to be held responsible. To those people, I say the following. You were talking about peace. You gave the order to withdraw the soldiers who were standing at a depth of 20 to 30 kilometers from the border with Sunik province until the last day of the war, that is, the day of the signing of the statement on truce. You should have let them remain standing there. The first point of the truce stated that they should remain there. Why did you bring them back? If you hadn't brought them back, we wouldn't see the events that are taking place now. If you brought them back, then give safeguards. Let the person who signed that statement on truce, that is, Nikol Pashinyan, go and negotiate to retrieve the 500 sheep and, most importantly, the shepherd. You can imagine what this means, right? We hope the shepherd will be released soon, but, well, there are already reports that the shepherd has been transferred to the Russian peacekeeping forces. He has already been transferred? Well, sheep are the only things that matter to Azerbaijanis. Fine. But we don't know how they treated the shepherd for a few hours, right? Did they beat him, massacre him, or humiliate him? Even if they didn't do anything, I can assure you that being in captivity of Azerbaijanis for a few hours is already very stressful for every Armenian. And there are Armenians who have been in captivity for over a year. Mr. Papian, don't you think that this could have been incited by the Russian peacekeepers so that Russian peacekeepers could go and be the saviors, and so that the presence of Russian peacekeepers in Artsakh, Armenia, and our borders is fetishized? I don't rule out anything, but this is not very likely in this case. Well, I know about a lot of incidents that were recorded during the First War, and my acquaintances, friends, and relatives told me about a few incidents. Some of my relatives have told me about how a so-called Russian peacekeeper, well, they weren't referred to as peacekeepers back then, but soldiers would catch an Armenian and sell him or her to Azerbaijanis for money. And then the Azerbaijanis would resell the Armenian to his or her Armenian family for an amount that was 10 times the amount of the sale, or they would exchange. But if it turned out that the relative of the Armenian family who had purchased the Armenian from a Russian was killed and not in captivity, very often the particular Armenian was also killed, meaning there was not even a sale. There have been resales. I know a case when, during a resale, the person who was caught had money kept deep into his pocket, and the Azerbaijanis didn't think that he would have money with him. But the person had brought a large amount of money to pay for release. He asked the Azerbaijanis how much they wanted for resale and said he would give the money in order to be released. It's a good thing the Azerbaijanis wanted the money. They took the money, released him, and told him to leave after kicking him into a Willis. So he got lucky, but he had been caught and was taken to be sold to another person. And then people ask how was it that Armenians would find themselves in the prisons of Shushi and Baku back then. This is exactly how they would find themselves in those prisons. Back then, Azerbaijanis and Turks couldn't come and catch Armenians on their own, and so they would take Armenians to the so-called peacekeepers. It's obvious that the same things will happen now, but in this case, I don't think so because the soldiers definitely would not go after 500 sheep. This is the method of operation of the Ak-Koyunlu tribe.
Բաժանորդագրվեք ազգային ժողովրդավարական բևեռի YouTube-յան ալիքին։